Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda.
Hare Krishna, there you are. We are reading Bhagavad-gita. That's what we do. Bhagavad-gita as it is, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, and my name is Labangala Tika. And I'm glad you are here, because this chapter 3 of the Bhagavad-gita, is called Karma Yoga. And karma is this Sanskrit word that we are very familiar with, but we don't always understand it. It means activity, action, what we do, and also what comes out of it. So I'm reading text 9. Yagyarthat karmano nyatra lokoyan karma bandhanaha tad arthang karma kaunteya mukta sangha samachara. Work done as a sacrifice for Vishnu has to be performed, otherwise work causes bondage in this material world. Therefore, O son of Kunti, perform your prescribed duties for his satisfaction, and in that way you will remain free from bondage. Yes. So Bhagavad-gita is spoken 5,000 years ago. And within a culture, or the world is predominantly under the culture of the Vedic lifestyle, the Vedic understanding. And Bhagavad-gita is expressing that in a condensed sense. But if we don't have that background, this may come as a somewhat unusual thing. Sacrifice for Vishnu, sacrifice for God. And we're thinking back to the old testimony of the Bible. Yes, my terminology might be off, but I hope you understand me, where we have burnt offerings and we're thinking of that sort of sacrifice. But actually sacrifice, yajna, it means that we do something for God in a regulated and somewhat also ritualistic way sometimes. But it means that we live in a world where God is an actual fact. Even the demigods, we have described it earlier, they are not God, they are the devas, they are a level up from us, but certainly not on the level of God at all. But in the universe, they have a certain position. So, in the Vedic culture, these things are known facts. These things are not unusual, so we can start talking about the next step based on that understanding. But for us here in the internet and so on, we need a little bit of explanations. I will continue the purport here. Since one has to work, even for simple maintenance of the body, the prescribed duties for a particular social position and quality are so made that that purpose can be fulfilled. Yajna means Lord Vishnu, or sacrificial performances. All sacrificial performances also are meant for the satisfaction of Lord Vishnu. The Vedas enjoin Yajna vai Vishnu. In other words, the same purpose is served whether one performs prescribed yajnas or directly serve Lord Vishnu. Krishna consciousness is therefore performance of yajna as it is prescribed in this verse. The Varnashram institution also aims at satisfying Lord Vishnu. Varnashramacharavata purushena parapuman Vishnur aradyate. Vishnu Purana 388. So it is all connected. Sometimes we want to be a little universal and see how everything is all one thing connected together. But in order to understand how it's connected, we also have to understand the separate parts. So we are parts of God. The universe and everything within it is the energy of God. And Krishna, God, is the source of all of this, and also his own individual person. But there is always this connection, unless we try to be somewhere else. We try to avoid that connection to God. Then we come to the material world, and we are given the ability to forget God. This is actually quite unnatural. So we hear the words Vishnu and Krishna, and when we read about Hinduism, we hear about the three gods within Hinduism, Brahma, Vishnu and Shiva, and that is a somewhat simplified picture, because Brahma, that is a position in this universe, and it's a very powerful position, but we do not call Brahma God. Vishnu is a manifestation or an aspect of Krishna, we do call him God, the origin of everything. And Shiva has a very special position. So we respect him as the most exalted Vaishnava, as the most perfect servant of God, and he has powers in his own right. But Krishna, he's the origin of everything. So he is the personal form. Vishnu comes in a more of a, official capacity. He acts as God. Well, he doesn't act as God, he is God, but he comes in that mood. Like if you have somebody very important, like you have a president or something, and he's very official, and people have to follow a certain etiquette when they behave around him, then he goes home, and his wife and children, they are not following that etiquette. They are calling him nicknames and asking him for pocket money, and because he's the same person, but he's acting in a different capacity, in a different relationship there. So that's the basic difference between Krishna and Vishnu. There are different schools of thoughts, because of course the Vedas are basically followed in India, and you have many schools of thought within it, but we are following the Vaishnava tradition. And as far as our sampradaya, our line of teacher, is showing us how that is the actual understanding that we're supposed to come to. So we start with that understanding. So with that connection, if we see how everything is connected to Krishna, we can never really be separate from him. So if we try to be separate from Krishna, then that becomes a little bit of an unnatural state. And in this world, we're so used to that unnatural state that it doesn't faze us. Yes, I don't know if this is a suitable thing to quote, but you may be familiar with the Narnia series, where these English children, somehow or another end up in a parallel world that is much younger and much closer in connection with the creation and with God in many ways. And in many ways it's very strange and unusual. They somehow or another end up sharing a meal with a group, and in this land you have talking animals, and those animals are not considered animals, they are considered people, so you relate to them the same way. So they are sitting in this meal, and then somebody says, oh, this animal, he was lying to us, he said he was old and he wouldn't taste very good, and he tastes just fine. And these children, they had learned this was a bad thing, so they reacted. But the people who lived there, for them it was like eating children. Of course, this quote I should bring up when we speak about vegetarianism. Yes, sometimes we go to work and we are vegetarians, and people are saying, oh, don't push your beliefs on everybody else, just accept that you do something and I do something. That's all right from your point of view, but for a person who actually has this understanding of the living entities as eternal spiritual being, just being placed in different bodies, when you bring your meat on your plate, then for such a person it's just like you're eating their children. That was not where I wanted to come, but anyway, what I wanted to come to is that if you are absorbed and full of a knowledge and a culture and a background, then your reaction will be naturally in accordance to that. So the natural situation for the living entities is to always be in contact with God. And when we are living in our lives, then it's a natural thing to want to bring something back to Krishna, to bring some offering to him. And in that development of loving devotion and service, it will be a very spontaneous and natural and personal way of relating to Krishna. But in a society, it will be set up in a little more of a structured, official way. So the same way we have Mother Yashoda, who acts as Krishna's mother, and she will pick up the Lord on his lap and breastfeed him. And somebody who's acting as an official priest, he will chant a certain mantras and perform an offering ceremony in a certain way according to the scriptures and the rules and the regulations. Both of them are offerings meant for God. So one is in a more personal, spontaneous way, and one is in a more regulated, official way. But both of them are natural for the living entity. So that's we need to find that level where we can start to connect back to God in loving service. So then we call it a sacrifice. Yes. Therefore, one has to work for the satisfaction of Vishnu. Any other work done in this material world would be a cause of bondage, for both good and evil work have their reactions, and any reaction binds the performer. Therefore, one has to work in Krishna's consciousness to satisfy Krishna or Vishnu, and while performing such activities, one is in a liberated stage. So that is the real understanding of karma. It is the law of this material world. It's a law of nature, a natural law. Every activity brings with it a result. And it's not just that, somebody's very mean and then he falls on his face and people say, karma. Now, everything is karma. Everything that comes to us, everything we have, this body, this intelligence, the facilities, it's all karma. It's all built on whatever we did before. It comes back to us in a sense. And also in this Vedic understanding, we're speaking of 4 stages of religion: Dharma, Artha, Kama, and Moksha. Dharma, first we follow the rules, the religion, the standard. And then Artha, we get some desirable things. We get wealth, health, family, education, so many things. And then Kama, we enjoy it in this world. And when we're done with that, then Moksha, we want to find liberation. We don't want to be bound up in this world, in this repeated birth and death, and this repeated forced position of having to accept all the reactions of all our activities with no end in sight. But real moksha can be understood, freedom from suffering, freedom from this material world. But the permanent position of liberation comes when we are safely situated somewhere else, in that place where we don't have to take birth, we don't have to die, we don't have to suffer and enjoy our own activities. And that safe platform is when we have realized our real spiritual nature in relationship to Krishna, and we have entered into that atmosphere, into that world where we have a home. We have a right to be there. But we forgot about it because we wanted to try something else. But now we tried that, and now we can go back to this. But here we're speaking a little bit more in the official capacity of yajna, sacrifice, moksha, liberation, which is more the official way of looking at it, the way you have to maybe set up society, because society contains everybody, not just those persons who are very sincere about their spiritual life, who are very absorbed in their love to God. So we have to have a structure that works for everybody. This is the great art of doing work, and in the beginning this process requires very expert guidance. One should therefore act very diligently under the expert guidance of a devotee of Lord Krishna, or under the direct instruction of Lord Krishna himself, under whom Arjuna had the opportunity to work. Nothing should be performed for sense gratification, but everything should be done for the satisfaction of Krishna. This practice will not only save one from the reactions of work, but also gradually elevate one to the transcendental loving service of the Lord, which alone can raise one to the kingdom of God. So that's the perfection. When we hear nothing should be done for our sense gratification, everything should be done for the service of the Lord, it seems maybe to be a little bit of a scary concept. What about me? Where am I within all of this? But actually that is the real me. The real me is that spiritual person who has a relationship to Krishna, but at present that understanding is a bit covered. So therefore we require the guidance and the help from somebody who has that vision. And coming to that level of performing every activity as a loving service for Krishna's pleasure is not a way of negating one's own self-interest. That is actually one's real self-interest. And being situated in that loving, spontaneous desire to relate to Krishna in service, then the effects of karma are fully nullified. We are no longer bound in this world. That bondage, it just dissolves like mist in the morning sun. So therefore we want to present Bhakti Yoga, present Krishna consciousness, offer it for anybody who has come to the point where they are actually willing and eager to find a solution to all the problems of this world. So it's not just for your individual satisfaction, it's not just for the sake of a good structured organization, but it's a process that works both as for me as a person, both as a way to give the world a way out of the complicated problems that we are facing today. And that's what the Bhagavad-gita is all about. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you for watching. We aim for updates every Tuesday and Friday. Please come back. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them down there. We also have some links and information for you. And there is, of course, the subscribe button. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
I'm a Hare Krishna, and I approve this message. Subscribe.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama.